Welcome to another episode of Mental Health Mondays, where we talk to guests who are either professionals in the mental health space, those that live with or experience a mental health challenge, or mental health advocates. And just as a reminder, depending on where you're watching this, we are on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Make sure you mash down either the subscribe button or the follow button so that you don't miss any other episodes for Mental Health Mondays. But I am super excited to bring on my guest today, Christine, and I will just bring her in. Yeah. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes. So tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Hi everyone. So a little bit about me. I am a culture consultant. So really, my background has been really bringing diversity, equity, and inclusion into companies. I'm also a happiness and well-being coach. So I really love to care for others around their holistic well-being. And I do a lot of motivational speaking around topics like mental health and happiness and joy and those are just some of the topics I talk about.
Awesome. And I mean, happiness is like, I feel like we're all like striving to like be happy, whether it's ourselves with ourselves or, a lot of people talking about like mental health, they struggle with depression and things of that nature. And it's like this word, right? We want to be happy. I want this happiness. So I think that's really cool that that's what you specialize in, along with multiple other things. But what led you into wanting to do this?
So a couple things. Yeah, I totally agree about happiness. There is this definition, right, that you have to be X, Y, Z or achievement, get X, Y, Z to be happy. And it's happiness is inside you. It's inside everybody, and it's just that consciousness of being and recognizing that and awakening to that. So how I kind of found my journey of happiness. It kind of goes along with my family. So my family is they're immigrants to the U.S. So my parents came almost 40 years ago. They're Armenians from Iran. And my dear grandmother moved here at 55 years old in the US. Now we're based here in Philadelphia. And she was always happy. I mean, regardless of the traumatic experiences she had from, war and to losing her husband and battling, various mental health. And she always managed to have a smile and to really live in gratitude. And so she ended up passing away on International Happiness Day, which is March 20th. That's recognized by the UN in 2019. And for me, it was this awakening, like I need to carry on that legacy of really having the conversation and helping people break down the bias for mental health. I personally have had people in my family that have struggled with mental health issues. So I can kind of vulnerably share a little bit about that personal journey that kind of led me to like, this is so needed that we really bring unity to and break the stigma around mental health and talk about it and support each other and have a really good conversation to continue making humanity go in the right way.
Yeah. Wow, pretty it's interesting that your grandma passed away right on like that day. And I didn't know that was a day. So see, I learned two things, but um
I didn't either until had researched it, and I was like, of course, that she would pass away on such a meaningful day around bringing happiness and mental health to the world. And so it was a pretty cool awakening of mine as well.
that's awesome. And so I know you said that you're in Philadelphia, is that right?
I am, yes, just based outside of Philadelphia.
Okay. I have been there a couple times, but for a previous work, but it's a really beautiful city, and it's got
And
lots of big buildings.
I'm kind of biased to say I love it, just love it here. And grew up here with my family, with my parents. As they immigrated here and they landed in Philly, and we haven't moved far since. So it's been a
Nice.
good place to live.
That's awesome. I know that you do a lot of work centered around diversity and inclusion also. Would you like to share a little bit about that too?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so the work that I've basically been leading DEI in multiple organizations the last almost 10 years. I had a kind of a career shift when I'm very open to talk about it. When my son was diagnosed with autism, I shifted my career into HR because I wanted to really bring um, strategies in place, especially in the workplace, around how are we enabling all people to thrive and be seen and heard and valued and celebrated and loved. And so that became my journey of really bringing some really great culture strategies to help people and organizations thrive. And that's been my work. It is my passion. And that's why I'm very passionate about mental health, because really having companies understand the value of how do you support employees with their mental, emotional, not only physical, right, but their holistic well-being is so important, because that's how companies thrive, when they've got engaged and healthy and happy employees. I mean, there was a recent article in Forbes just recently, and I was so like I jot down the statistic because it said companies that invested in mental health, like whether it's resources or training leaders or becoming more allies, saw a 4 times return on investment. 4 times. And it's like, right? Duh. It's like the companies that are actually caring and investing their resources and time and money, they're seeing 4 times that of that come back. So that's been my passion, is really also helping companies understand the value of bringing, mental health awareness and resources and changes in kind of the experiences that employees have, so that we can have, again, happy and healthy employees continuing to do meaningful work.
Yeah, I mean, that's such an important. I know my background isn't in the corporate world like where yeah, I mean, I took the leap of faith in 2021 last year in May to quit my corporate job and jump into my nonprofit full time. And so I know that corporate environment, specifically sales and like call centers, where I feel like you have the most stress due to just the work environment, and there can tend to be a lot more negativity. And I know the company itself really did try, especially after we all got moved home and everybody was a little bit more disconnected. They really tried to showcase the importance of mental health, but it can be really challenging as a corporation to really follow through in that. And that's huge. Like that stat that you throughout. I mean, that is huge. Like people want to be happy, and we're seeing it in this mass exodus of
Right.
jobs right now, right? Like I need to take care of myself. I need to finally think about myself versus just working, right? And so, not saying that it's not good to be in a company or a corporation. I think it's just the dynamics of the companies are really starting to shift, which is very, very cool.
Yes, it is. It's so needed. For I say there's no balance ever, but there's this ever flow, right? That we need to be intentional about creating, and it does start with ourselves. I know there's lots of things that corporations can do, but sometimes I say, to be an ally and to live and breathe kind of the role modelship of what it means to really embrace mental health. It's like it starts with ourselves. So I kind of share a couple tips with people. Like if you're wanting to start, what could they be? And I would say number one is like just start with you first. Like if you can't care for others unless you care for yourself, right? Like you were just saying. I mean, people are sometimes so go go go, and I'm wanting to do good for others and support others, but you can't give from an empty cup. And that's kind of what I've learned in my journey in this, as being a mom of a special amazing kiddo, being a full time having a full-time job, and doing my entrepreneurship on the side. I mean, there's just been the pandemic and just the social unrest, like really it's been such a just really tough times. And what I've kind of done is, how am I putting the oxygen mask on myself first? Because I can't give from an empty cup. And I said that before, but so it's just taking a step back and recognizing kind of your holistic well-being. What are you doing from a mental health perspective? Like, are you, for me, it's been like, there's so many things that you can do, but for me, it's been kind of reframing those limiting beliefs, really practicing the positive affirmations. I do that with my kids before they go to school. I'm like, okay, what's your positive affirmation for today? And just something to keep positive in your mind, because there's so much noise that you're getting from so many different directions. And just being mindful that you need to, take care of your physical being, right? Eating well, like drinking water, just being intentional with your physical health, and even just emotionally connecting with others. Like I have breakfast with my mom every morning. Thankfully, it brings me so much joy to just have a cup of coffee with her every morning, and really setting those boundaries. Like if there's a meeting or something that I have, I don't have it carved into my mom and me breakfast time. Like that's really important for my emotional health. And so I've kind of learned, like, that's number one, is really putting that breathing mask on yourself first, and recognizing where there are those gaps within your holistic health, and starting with, helping yourself get there so that you can then give to others and support and be a strong ally for mental health.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important. I just had actually two mental health first aid classes that I trained on Friday and Saturday, and we talk a lot about that as self-care, right?
Yes.
Like how important it is, but then also I created these 7 strategies just for myself to remind myself what I needed for my mental wellness. And number 6 is practice what you preach, because I know it about myself that I tend to just go, go, go mode, right? Like you, I'm mom, I'm entrepreneur, I'm founder of nonprofit. Like there's not a ton of space for myself potentially, right? But I have to create that space. And I love that you do coffee and or breakfast with your mom. That's amazing. Like that's a non-negotiable, right? That we as humans can insert into our schedules.
Yes,
That's awesome.
definitely. And that's what I say, I think you have to set those boundaries of what brings you joy, and be very intentional with sticking to them. It's hard, but like when you know that that is what's going to fuel your well-being, and then end up you're going to give more, whether it's to your job or to your family, like you want to be able to carve those within your week and figure out what those things are. So that's so cool. I love that you have the 7 strategies. I would love to listen to one of the sessions sometime.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I literally, like, one day I was thinking about what I do for myself, and then I was like, well, I got to remind myself, because I'm in this mental health world every day, right? And it's something that I talk about, but I don't often enough remind myself of the things that I already have. So yeah, I
I
can
love it. I love
send
it.
you a link to that for sure.
It's just so important that you're talking about it. We're breaking the bias. I mean, so oftentimes I know, again, as I said in the beginning, like I grew up with my family, and my father specifically, he had some mental challenges come his way due to workplace trauma, bias from, being from another country. It's just escalated so deeply that he then ended up leaving the workforce at a very young age, at the age of 50, because he ended up having a mental breakdown. And I share that vulnerably is because I am so passionate about having people be active listeners and practice the compassion and empathy, and just like acknowledging and validating a person's feelings, and truly being allies for all differences. Sometimes, again, we all have biases, but really challenging our own biases, and like respecting others and their journeys. And that for me has been a huge lesson that I'm trying to bring to workplaces, is really enabling leaders, or wherever you are, whether you're in the workplace or in communities, is really having those behaviors of empathy and compassion when you're talking to pretty much anyone, right? Like um, listening to what they're going through, and acknowledging and validating that. Like so oftentimes you hear, right, like, oh no, you're fine, you're fine. Oh, just be happy. And it's like, that's like, what I don't want to hear, right? I want to hear just someone that's listening and acknowledging and validating my feeling. And so I feel like that could be just a good first step. And then, of course, if you're talking to someone and it gets to be, escalated, of course, seek professional help, or have them, go to a specialist for that. But I feel like even as a parent or a leader or a community, wherever you are, you can open up dialogue And instead of trying to solve someone's problem, just actively listen and show compassion and empathy is a really good place to start.
Yeah, and that can be, I mean, it can be really challenging. I just love how my guests kind of like start flowing together even though you guys like don't know each other. But the coolest part is that it also, and I that's why I draw in the people I think that I do draw in, because it's really like a lot of what BCC evolution really is trying to accomplish, right? Like having this open conversation. Like we have to have these dialogues versus being those like passing ships in the hallway, right? Like, how are you doing? Fine. How are you? Right? Like we have those automatic responses that if we can just shift or reframe how we start approaching people, like, and or listening, like you said, like how many times have you really actually listened? Like if somebody said, "Oh, I'm fine," or if they're like, "I'm not great," or how many times have you said you're not great, right? So I think that's really cool, and being able to share that information. And I just thought I should have told, we have the download on our website for my 7 strategies. So if you go to BCC Evolution, anybody can actually get the download, the free download for those strategies. But I mean, the happiness thing, everybody like tries to latch on to this. And so I think it's really important that we have these conversations and have you on here too.
Yeah, that is nice. It's just so I say try and just find moments of joy within every day. It's tough. It's like life is just ups and downs, and it's just finding those small moments of gratitude within your day that can bring just joy and help shift right your mindset in the moment, and surround yourself with people that bring your energy level up with positivity. Because I think oftentimes, right, we sometimes fall into these traps of being surrounded by people, and maybe it's on purpose or we can't necessarily get out of, but recognizing that and saying, I am not going to, if it's a negative person that you have in your family or whoever, recognizing that that's not the energy that I'm going to take in. I still have to respect this person. They're part of my family, but I don't need to soak up their negative energy. And having that, again, that boundary, I think I've said that before in the beginning, really having those boundaries is important, as you're trying to also care for yourself and, just continue to have moments of happiness and joy and fulfill, your full being.
Yeah. And I mean, I have had people, so when I first started the journey of doing the 7 strategy, I did it as a workshop. And one of the parts is like find a way to release your happy juices. That's what I call them. But the response that I got, and so this is a question that's popping in my head for you, is that some people are like, I don't know how to find that space. Like I love your strategies. I think they're great, but like I don't know how to do this. Like, this is really, really challenging for me because I am right now in a really challenging place in my life. So, when somebody says that to you, what are some things that you might be able to suggest or help them with?
I can say, like, I feel like no one really has those answers, right? Like, we are all trying to figure it out in the best way that works for that for you. And so I kind of only share my own perspective, and I feel like in the moments of really down in my life, like I say, okay, how do I collectively kind of find this inner resilience, right? Like how do I continue to go? And for me, it's always been a little bit more of the spiritual side, like really going back to my family values, like what I value and what my ultimate purpose is, and really fueling that kind of spiritual connection and energy that's like, you know what? I am going to get through this. Like, this is like an inner belief that I have to keep going. So it might sound like a little odd, but just for me, that's been a foundational kind of family value for me that's kept me going in really dark times. But it's different for everybody, like everyone's kind of find their own way of being able to, get through the tough times. So like, I'm a friend of mine, she does something very different than me, it's all about, she uses a lot of her escape and physical exercise, whether it's like running or, and that, increases the brain and, all the wonderful things that comes with physical exercise. So I think there's just different ways to find what those are. So I say be open and explore and be curious. Like for me, I never did meditation until 2020. It's opened my eyes like so much because again, I was trying to look for more of that spiritual connection. I said, you know what, I'm going to try this meditation thing, and it's changed my life. Because I'm now I do mindful exercises every day for 10 minutes, not an
Mm.
hour, just 10 minutes a day. And like, so that for me has helped me kind of center myself, whether whatever I've got going on in the day that's bringing me down, let me take just a pause here. I do a couple breath exercises, and I have like the meditations on my phone that I love. And it's like less than 5 minutes and I've recentered myself. So I just find be open to different things and different techniques that could end up actually working for you and create a habit that helps with your mental well-being.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, kind of same. It's like, I can only really speak from my own experience, right? Like what works for me. And like you said, it's going to be very different for everyone. So, having that open mind, which I love you said, is just be open minded to potentially seeing things that may have worked for others, but it may not work for you. And then also, what you do find that does work for you, keep in mind that you don't necessarily have to do it for hours, right? Like meditation. I mean, most of us, we think, oh my gosh, now I got to sit here for 45 minutes and then I got to figure out, but it's so simple. And even, I mean, my previous guest said the same thing, is it can be as simple as 5 minutes. You just said it could be as simple as 10 minutes per day. Like that one thing that you start doing could potentially completely shift your life. And so, all the things that we're giving you today and all the things that on all of my mental health Mondays is giving you is just tips and like things that could potentially work. So if you open your mind, maybe some of them will. So,
Yeah,
um, amazing. Yes.
no, I just shared this story with on online because I had a really cool experience. I was just at grabbing breakfast at the local convenience store, and this woman it was like a breakfast smoothie I had grabbed, and I just flashed her a smile. I was like, "Thank you so much. Have a great day." I just flashed a big smile and just said, "Thank you." And she stops me and she goes, "First of all, thank you for saying thank you." And like that, like you'd be so surprised. People come in here and just take their drinks, and I never get a flash of a smile, and no one really ever says thank you. And you just made my day. Thank you. Like that means a lot to me. And I felt like in that moment, like, wow, there's so much, right, in the power of a simple smile, because not only did it make me feel good, it made her feel good. And it was like a ripple that it created already at the start, those moments of joy and happiness. And over, again, a simple smile. It doesn't cost anything, takes 1 minute, less than a second, right, to deliver. And so, there is always something to smile about. And I always say, try and find something to smile, even though you might be, really down or something really heavy in your life is happening. Find those moments of gratitude and joy and smile. It can really help uplift someone else as well as uplift you in that moment too.
Yeah, definitely. And that is a great point too, is that you never know what somebody else is going through. And we get in that like cycle of busy, 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 gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. But that simple smile, I mean, it just made
Yeah.
that woman's day, which is amazing. That's awesome.
It made mine, I was like so happy the rest of the day over my breakfast smoothie, And it's so interesting to continue just in life, like, flash a smile at someone, say thank you. Just means a lot to have those moments of connection, even if it's with a random stranger, at a convenience store grabbing breakfast. So
Yeah, I know it can. I mean, I've had those days where I'm just like, or like if my brain is just overloaded or whatever, right? And I'm just like annoyed by everything. But then I go and I sit with some friends, or I happen to, see somebody that like I notice those small things, and it can shift your whole entire day. I know if that happened last week for me, I was just like done by Wednesday. And then I ended up going to my son's breakdancing class, and all the other moms were there, and we were sitting there talking, and I was like, that little do they know how much they help me today just by being there and like making me laugh. So
that's
yeah.
awesome. That's right. Yeah, that's awesome to yeah, it's not to say that you can't have those emotions at all, like recognizing those emotions are always gonna be ever flow. But I think it's just taking a moment for yourself, recognizing that, appreciating that, and then shifting your brain to get to a better place. And how you can constantly do that can continue to help with your mental well-being.
Yeah, definitely. Any like other, I know I kind of like guided this in like a different direction probably than you were thinking we were gonna go,
No,
but
this is awesome.
um I
Have
know you shared a couple tips potentially, but is there anything else that you wanted to share specifically?
as I said, I think there was really kind of four that I was going to share. I think I shared already maybe the one or two of them, but really number one was around really being taking care of yourself first before you put the oxygen mask on others. I find that to be number one because you can't, again, give from an empty cup. And so really recognizing that in order to do good, continue to fuel yourself. With whatever that is, right? Like whether it's morning walks, meditation, music, taking breath, whatever works for you. I think that's number one. I think number two is kind of around really educating yourself around mental health. For me, like, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist. I'm just someone who is very passionate about mental health because oftentimes when we talk about health, we're talking about physical only. Most of the time, it's like, oh, okay, what are you doing at the gym? And it's like our brains are so precious and they are so needed for love. And we got to talk about it. We got to do work on ourselves and really open up more dialogue through education. So for me, it's like reading a book that's talking about mental well-being, learning about even different like illnesses around mental health. So really understanding anxiety and depression. And for me, as I say, I have an autistic son. So even learning all about the neurodivergent brains from ADHD to ADD and just learning and being open to educating ourselves with mental health, I think is really important that we can all do. We all, can lean on resources, which is so great that I found your podcast because you have plenty of resources that people can dive into. And then number three is really, as I said, like before, is stemmed around having compassion, empathy, and being an active listener. Really being that strong ally that you've created the safe space for someone that can open up to you. I think that no matter if you're a teacher or you're a parent, like you're a leader, whatever you are, just having those moments of connection with someone that makes them feel safe to open up with whatever they're going through and having a no judgment, like no bias type of environment is something I hope that every human can strive to do because ultimately, if you're talking to someone and they are needing professional help, that's kind of like my number four tip is like if you are recognizing that, be open and talk to them about seeing therapy or whether it's going even beyond and seeing a doctor for medications, like whatever works for them, but having that avenue of you feel safe to tell me and guiding them that if you do need to see professional help, there's no stigma, right? Like if something happened to your heart or something, if you broke your leg, like you would go see a doctor, and that's open with our minds as well. And I think those are kind of the four takeaways I would start with. There's so much more, but I felt like if people can walk away with 3 or 4 tips, that's kind of what I would start with for today.
Yeah, no, those are awesome. And again, you're like so much in alignment with me. I'm glad that you're my guest today because I feel like we're going to have some good collaboration in the future, which I'm
Oh,
excited.
for sure. Because this is not the first or last time we're talking.
Absolutely. Yes. So if people want to work with you, how can they find you?
Yeah, so I have a website, ignitingclusion.com. So please feel free. Awesome. Thank you for putting that up. And I'm also on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn. So please reach out. As I said, like I love to really be a coach around well-being and happiness. And also if anyone has companies that are struggling with employees that would like someone to help fostering some resources and engagement there, I am your go-to person.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being my guest today. And again, I know we'll have lots more conversations in the future.
Oh, definitely. I am so excited to have met you and your amazing audience. I hope that Honestly, this world, we need to continue being advocates for mental health. I want to thank truly the professionals, like the therapists, the doctors that really, really care for mental health. I think collectively as a humanity, like we can all really join forces, and so that we can really be there for everybody in this space for sure.
Yeah, let's do it together. Yes.
Right. Right.
Thank you so much again.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right, y'all. That was another amazing episode of Mental Health Mondays. And you heard her 4 tips. And if you didn't, go back and watch them. But keep in mind, wherever you're watching this, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, make sure you mash down whether it's the subscribe or the follow button so that you don't miss another episode. Because I promise you, it is so cool how my guests just keep intertwining into each other. And I am not planning this. Like, I am welcoming in those that want to be guests. So maybe you want to be a guest. You can find more information in the comments below. But keep in mind, BCC Evolution is a mental health and suicide awareness nonprofit. So we do need your help by becoming a Warrior for Mental Health monthly donor. And you can get this super cool shirt that I wear every single week, almost every week. There's been a couple of weeks that I didn't wear it, but at least I brought it in. So you can get your super cool shirt with only $20 or more donation per month. If my mouth will go as fast as my brain's going. I'm just so excited about this episode. So go sign up to become a warrior for mental health and show the world that you are a warrior also. And join us back next Monday at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. We're like, it's Mountain Time. I don't know what we're on right now with the time change, but you'll find it. And we'll see you next week. Bye, y'all.